The banks are going to hate me for telling you this. Most people are going to miss the biggest shift in generational wealth in history. You will not ever get this chance again, and this is a shift from tactical to industrial Web 2.0 to Web 3.0, and now this is extremely important, as everybody looks away and focus on the FTX collapse where it's all over the news. They're trying to make people believe that crypto as a whole is a scam. There's a big difference between crypto and blockchain. Now hear me out. They're pushing this whole FTX collapse thing all over the media, because they're trying to make you believe that crypto is a scam, and if you invest in crypto you will lose your money. But blockchain technology, distributed ledger technology, on-demand liquidity, ChatGPT, AI, gas, solar, wind, are literally the future of our economy. Now if you're watching this far, I'm gonna share with you the new 1%, so the old paradigm is gas, oil, and the new 1% will be data, software, information and attention. So here's what's happening behind the scenes as you look at the problem, reaction and the solution. Look at the Project M Bridge. The central banks have been working on this since 2017 to connect economies' trough CBDCs, which are central bank digital currencies, and while you are distracted, they're planning to switch over the current monetary system over to blockchain technology. However, there are hundreds of central banks and they're gonna need a bridge of liquidity for all these CBDCs, and Ripple, XRP has the solution to this, and has the liquidity bridge ready to go and ready to be used. This was Mr. Hausler from Tradology team. Central banks doesn't want you to switch your consumer mentality to an investor mentality, so you always loan cash in the present and loan crypto in future from them. Wake up.
Continuing with this implications for banks and financial systems, David Schwartz, CTO, as I mentioned, of Ripple. David, 10 minutes.
Hi, thanks. I'm David Schwartz, CTO of Ripple. I'm definitely not an economist. I just had arthroscopic surgery and tomorrow will officially be my first day back to work, so no slides for me. I'm coming here from my kitchen because my office is on the other side of my house. It might as well be on the moon. I want to thank Rich and Tobias, also Barry and John, for giving me the opportunity to speak today. Ripple improves international payments for enterprise customers by building a modern, interoperable, international payment and settlement system, RippleNet, based on blockchain technologies. Our ultimate goal we call the Internet of Value, payments as easy as email for enterprises of all sizes and for consumers around the world. Obviously, we're not going to build that all by ourselves. It's an audacious goal. And in 8 years, we've learned a lot about where the challenges are, but also where the opportunities are. The good news, CBDCs can make domestic settlement faster, more reliable, and less costly. And that's important. You can't have good international payments without good domestic settlement. International payments are more important than you might think because they're just so inefficient today. They often simply don't take place. Most emails wouldn't have been sent by postal mail if we didn't have email. The communication simply wouldn't have happened. An enormous amount of valuable commerce simply doesn't happen because international payments are so slow, unreliable, costly, and complex. The opportunity is enormous. There's typically a domestic transfer on each end of any international payment. If those don't work well, the international payment doesn't work well. And equally importantly, if you imagine an international settlement system with great characteristics like speed, certainty, low failure rates, those benefits won't be seen by the endpoints of the payment unless the domestic components on both ends of the international payment have them too. Countries that don't modernize their domestic systems will not see the benefits of the revolution in payments taking place today pushed to the endpoints in that country. CBDC distribution will almost certainly have to happen through intermediaries, banks, wallets, fintech companies. Central banks don't have the scale to provide direct-to-consumer services, and it makes no sense for central banks to try to scale up to replace consumer financial infrastructure. In working to build modern international payments, we've discovered that the biggest obstacle is very often the last hop, getting the funds to the payment recipient through the domestic payment system. But lacking connectivity to consumers, CBDCs won't solve the last mile problem that has made modernizing international payments so difficult. Fortunately, domestic systems are modernizing. SEPA, Singapore, others have very strong domestic systems. The US is implementing FedNow, though that won't be live for another few years. It's important that these payment systems are built on newer technologies that are compatible with each other. At a minimum, they won't be able to confer the benefits of improved international settlement to the payment's originator and recipient if they aren't modernized. At worst, those payments won't work at all. Even if you imagine some future with one world asset, we won't get there unless the new one world asset is compatible with where the value is today. So either way, compatibility is key. The world's value today is spread out among systems that don't interoperate with a massive number of bespoke and quirky interconnections, band-aids. Companies that handle large numbers of payment endpoints need hundreds of people to maintain their payments infrastructure and handle the complex treasury operations needed to handle funds in dozens of payment systems. If someone wants to compete with companies that have this kind of payments infrastructure, the answer can't be that their new startup hire 100 payment engineers and a dozen treasury operations people. That's a non-starter. So there's an opportunity here to bridge domestic real-time payment systems such as FedNow, clearinghouse for US dollars, with powerful benefits for small and medium enterprises and ultimately consumers around the world. We need to build systems with common principles just as the internet was built. Today, many computer networks are effectively just part of the internet, but this wasn't always the case. As many of you may know, Cisco rose to dominance among competitors because they could make legacy systems that were already there connect to the internet, while competitors frequently required you to build new internet-like networks. Today, most networks look like the internet, and this isn't a concern, but it took interoperability to get there. There was a long transition period. We're not going to build a new financial system tomorrow and everything magically move to it. That's not realistic. Payments and settlement are in that pre-internet state. There's still that huge mismatch. It's walled garden after walled garden with limited interoperability through a massive number of limited interconnections. Liquidity is spread out, and enterprises need to keep money spread across these systems when they don't know which domestic payments they'll need to make next in which countries. The result is high cost due to trapped funds and the need to pre-fund transactions, often days in advance. So two problems we need to be mindful of when we talk about stablecoins and CBDCs. Stablecoins are always going to be tied to a single fiat currency by definition. There's probably not going to be one winner at the end of the day. There definitely won't be a single stablecoin or single fiat currency that everyone in the world uses anytime soon. The US dollar has been the world's reserve currency since the Bretton Woods Agreement, 1944. But as we've seen, particularly this year, that status has been weakening. I don't think the US dollar being fully replaced as the world's reserve currency is likely in the near term or even over the next few decades, but its position is becoming more precarious. Pandemic uncertainty is forcing consumers and institutions to look at other safe haven asset classes, even cryptocurrencies, and the rise of other countries, particularly China, trying to dethrone the US dollar. Being tied to USD also brings jurisdictional ties as well that are, let's be realistic, increasingly unwanted in many parts of the world. Today, many sovereign countries around the world want independence from such a system that gives jurisdictions like the US and the EU extraterritorial control over systems in those sovereign countries and regions. Saudi Arabia, for example, wants a payment system in the Middle East that respects their sovereignty. If each country issues their own CBDC or starts using stablecoins denominated in different regional currencies, we risk repeating this mistake yet again. We drastically need interoperability between these virtual currencies and between virtual currencies and traditional assets and systems. A CBDC, by definition, is going to carry the same capital controls, trade agreements, politics as its corresponding fiat currency did, and countries are not going to want to deal with another country's capital controls, nor should they. They're sovereign nations. A world currency issued by a world jurisdiction that everybody uses for everything is a pipe dream. Our choices seem to be between an interoperable future with a few jurisdictionless settlement assets or more balkanization. If you're looking at cross-border, that key factor is interoperability. You're working across jurisdictions and across assets. You need a neutral asset in between different CBDCs, or your liquidity is going to be divided among the n-squared pairs of CBDCs. Similarly, if other assets, such as securities around the world, get tokenized, there's even more need for a neutral asset between multiple CBDCs and possibly a large number of new assets in new asset classes. A central bank is not going to issue a digital asset that behaves like BTC, XRP, or Ethereum. These are neutral assets that are free from a single jurisdictional control. So CBDCs are not going to usurp the role of universal settlement assets. You need a neutral asset going in between CBDCs serving as a settlement across jurisdictions, accepted by all because everyone can come to accept that they can't get the whole world to use an asset they control. And so an asset nobody can control is preferable to one controlled by their geopolitical competitors. Bitcoin is sometimes pitched as the interoperability solution, and in the early days, that almost seemed believable. But as we now have some 1,500 cryptocurrencies that don't interoperate, and almost nothing non-crypto interoperates with Bitcoin, we just recreated the new version of the same walled garden problem. Instead of building an internet based on compatibility, we built one network and required everyone to join that network, demanding too many sacrifices too quickly. Internet without Cisco. So it can't be just one network. And if there's one network at the hub, that network has to be built for that role with interoperability taking priority over everyone do things our way. It has to be based on bridges, not on walls. XRP and the XRP ledger were built specifically for this kind of role. The XRP ledger was purpose-built for transacting in both a native neutral asset, XRP, and also in issued assets, a bridge to CBDCs, stablecoins, other payment networks, and other kinds of assets such as securities. The XRP ledger has asset issuance built into the protocol. Issuance, authorization, payment, settlement, and exchange are native operations with simple APIs. Issued assets can represent fiat currency, securities, or anything else of fungible value that works like a currency. But of course, the XRP ledger can't handle all the world's payments. And I'm not proposing a one network solution. That's totally unrealistic. People want different things, and different countries have different problems. But XRP can be the hub or backbone that provides the fast international settlement piece, competing with other possible solutions to that same problem. It won't solve the last mile problem, but it will help with interoperability and concentrating liquidity so enterprises don't have to keep funds in every payment system they might need to make payments in. Just to repeat what I said at the beginning, CBDCs can make domestic settlement more efficient, and that's very important. You can't have good international payments without good domestic settlement, but they're not enough by themselves, and expecting them to bring benefits to small and medium enterprises and consumers and users is unrealistic unless we do a number of things. One of the things we discovered at Ripple is that you can give an enterprise a fantastic payment rail, and they'll still be hesitant to push the benefits to their customers because it makes the less modern parts of their system seem worse or unacceptable. It's often better to only provide payments that settle in 2 to 3 business days than to sometimes provide instant payments and sometimes provide payments that settle in 2 to 3 business days. People will now be more dissatisfied with the slower payments than they would be if you didn't seduce them with the better experience they only sometimes get. Perverse, but a fact. To some extent, you have to do everything to do anything, but CBDCs definitely can have a role to play. It just still leaves getting to and from the end user and interoperability across jurisdictions and different fiats, and those are very important components if we want to make things better.
We started building RippleNet with the thesis that crypto liquidity would eventually be able to support robust global payments, large payments. RippleNet was designed so that customers seeing the benefits of our fiat-based network could flip the switch to ODL once the market was mature enough. And this is exactly what's happening.
Flip the switch.